What's good, everyone? Today is the 7th of August, 2025, and welcome back to this, the 96th edition of the Superstream. It's been a little over 7 months since we've ran a Superstream on this channel, but it was never going away permanently, and how appropriate that the edition has made its return for number 96. Which happens to be the ordinal value of the word return. And this is the focus of this channel: Gematria, numerology, synchronicity, and mysticism. Today we'll be looking at at least five different news stories, and explain how these all happened by the numbers. As always, we'll focus on how some of these news stories, although apparently completely unrelated on the surface, are actually connected to each other as part of a larger mystical riddle. So today, we're going to start by talking about the death of actress Kelley Mack at the age of 33, best known for her role as Addie in The Walking Dead. This actress died on August 2nd, with news of her death breaking yesterday on August 6th. So Kelley dies on the 2nd, and as you see, this was published on August 6th, yesterday. Well, yesterday, August 6th, a pitcher named Andrew Kittredge threw an immaculate inning. This pitcher throws for the Chicago Cubs, and he achieved this rare accomplishment against the Cincinnati Reds. Well, the city of Cincinnati is where Kelley Mack was born, and reportedly where she passed away. Now, the fact that her name is Mack seems to point to this immaculate inning. But what we're going to talk about is how this also connects to the third news story that we'll be looking at today. Because last year, in March of 2024, a film called Immaculate was released. And this movie starred actress Sweeney. And Sweeney has been at the center of a big controversy over the past couple weeks, centered around her advertisement for American Eagle jeans. And Sweeney is absolutely connected to the events of yesterday. If you take her birthday and measure to the date of yesterday's immaculate inning, notice how Sweeney was 10,190 days old. Well, this is quite the immaculate number, as it's often believed that Jesus, who was conceived through the Immaculate Conception, was actually born on the 11th of September, the date commonly written as 11/9. And if you look at the list of immaculate innings, we find out that yesterday's immaculate inning, which is when a pitcher throws 9 pitches and gets 3 strikeouts in the same inning, this was the 119th immaculate inning in the history of Major League Baseball. The name of the pitcher, Andrew Kittredge, has standard gematria of 1190. So if you happen to be new to the channel, Gematria is our prime focus. It all starts with the alphabetic order, branching off into the base 4 methods, reversed or Pythagorean. This all connects to date durations, the measurement of time between two dates, or date numerologies to a lesser extent. Of course, we'll also be peeking at the extended forms, Latin or Agrippa's key, and standard English gematria. And standard is the cipher, where Andrew Kittredge sums to 1,190. He picked up his inning against the team from Cincinnati, Ohio, which is a city that sums to 119 when abbreviated. And the second hitter in that immaculate inning was Gavin Lux, whose age was 10,119 days old. The same digits we see in the age of Sweeney, the star of the film Immaculate, So let's begin by talking about actress Kelley Mack, reportedly dead at the age of 33. And although she appeared in several different works, we're going to focus on how this is numerically connected to the show Walking Dead, which is a show, obviously, about death. Well, it just so happens that the very last video that Kelley posted to Instagram was of her relearning to walk. And now she's dead? Very bizarre stuff. We begin with the date that this occurred, August 2nd of 25, the date she passed away. This date has what we call standard numerology of 35, 8 plus 2 plus 25. And in reduction, the name Kelley Mack equals 35. However, this wasn't her birth name. She was born as Kelley Lynn Klebanow, which is a name that sums to 305 using capital letters, a cipher which maintains the alphabetic order, but adds 26 for every capital letter. Her death fell exactly 350 weeks after her character's first appearance on The Walking Dead. In the series, she played Adeline, and if you look at the Walking Dead wiki page, we learn that she made her debut in November of 2018 in this episode, exactly 350 weeks before her death on a 35 date. The date August 2nd is also written 8-2, matching Cincinnati, Ohio. In 2 years, on the date Kelley died, August 2nd, there will be a total solar eclipse, a very significant one, I might add, that peaks over the nation of Egypt. Now, this eclipse occurs in the year 2027, and 227 just so happens to be the ordinal gematria of her birth name, as she would go on to die on August 2nd. Well, the number 227 is also a significant prime number. Divisible only by 1 and itself, 227 is the 49th prime number. Kelley Klebanow, whose name sums to 490 in the prime number cipher, another method that uses the alphabetic order but only applies associated prime numbers. Her name equals 490. And her death fell exactly 49 weeks before her next birthday. In The Walking Dead, she played a character named Addie, which equals 409. And if you measure from the date of the episode she was killed off in, which was called The Calm Before, notice how her death fell 4 months and 9 days after her on-screen death in The Walking Dead. But of course, many eyes were likely drawn to the number 33 that appeared in the headline, as this actress passed away at the age of 33. But not only was she 33 years old, she was also a span of 3 weeks and 3 days after her 33rd birthday. Using this same prime number cipher that we glanced at earlier, her stage name, Kelley Mack, equals 303. And when she was killed off on The Walking Dead, it was 330 lunar phases after she was born. She passed away on Saturday, 33 weeks and 3 days before the date of that final appearance. When she first debuted on The Walking Dead, it was 33 weeks and 3 days before her 27th birthday. And what's 27? Well, that's 3 to the third power. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So earlier here, we looked at a lunar count. This measures the time it takes between new moon to new moon, also called a synodic month. And there's a very other strong connection to her synodic age. Check this out. When her character first debuted on The Walking Dead in November of 2018, it was exactly 326 lunar phases, or synodic months, after she was born. Well, once again, this past March, she posted this video of her relearning to walk before she was found dead. And this video was posted to Instagram on March 26th. The date written 3/26. Kelley was 32 years and 260 days old on that date. Notice how she died 1 year, 3 months, and 26 days after the Great American Eclipse of last year. Her birth name, Kelley Klebanow, equals 1326. In the Sumerian method of Gematria, another important cipher, yes, it's based in ordinal, and it simply multiplies the alphabetic order by 6. So her name even connects to this 326. Next up, we're going to look at this story with Andrew Kittredge, the guy who threw the Immaculate inning. And his name also sums to 326. So in reverse Sumerian, her birth name sums to this 326, but her stage name in the same cipher equals 1032. And this is the next big number I want to talk about. Because after her on-air death in The Walking Dead, a couple years later, she came back to appear in an episode called A New Deal, which contained flashback footage, I guess. And this episode aired on Yale's anniversary, October 9th. So if you measure from her official last appearance in the show to her death, Kelley Mack, whose name equals 1032, died 1032 days later. In the most basic cipher, Kelley Mack Addie sums to 132. She made her debut on The Walking Dead as Addie 132 days after her birthday, and she died 132 days after the anniversary of her on-air death. Her initials KK, her birth initials, both equal 132. But think about this connection as well. She died of a type of astrocytoma cancer called diffuse midline glioma. And this reminded me of the fact that her astrological sign was Cancer. Astrology, which is very close to astrocytoma, has matching 132 gematria with Cancer. Again, her birth sign. Now, Cancer is the only sign on the zodiac ruled by the moon. Kelley was born during lunation number 860. And this probably explains why it took 4 days for her death to reach the news. Because it was published on August 6th, or 8/6. This is also slang for offing or getting rid of someone. Human sacrifice, blood sacrifice, 86. Finally, her death also occurred exactly 332 weeks after she died on The Walking Dead, which equals 332. Blood sacrifice, another big 332. Also, this number 326 that was so integral to the main riddle of her death. Has that 332 as well. So next up, again, Kelley Mack dead in the city of Cincinnati, Ohio, where she was born. And next up, we're going to look at how this is connected to an immaculate inning that occurred on the same day we learned of her passing. Yesterday was 8 years and 20 days after Andrew Kittredge's Major League Baseball debut. And again, this matches the date August 2nd of his immaculate inning against the team from Cincinnati, Ohio. The city of Cincinnati, Ohio also has Gematria of the 98th prime number, 521. Once again, prime numbers are of utmost significance to this study. Well, in the alphabetic order, the word immaculate equals 98. So does the name Kelley Mack. Immaculate, Kelley Mack, both sum to 98, 172, and 35. Well, 35 happens to be Andrew Kittredge's age for this game. In fact, he was also 142 days after his birthday. And Cincinnati Reds equals 142 in the standard alphabetic order. Now, remember how big the number 33 was to the death of Kelley Mack, who died at 33 years, 3 weeks, 3 days of age. In that same prime number cipher, Kittredge equals 303. But check this out. The number 33 has Sumerian gematria of 846. Kelley Mack was born 846 days after Andrew Kittredge and died exactly 1,846 weeks after he was born. So I just got a phone call that I need to take, and I knew this might happen. So what I'm going to do for you guys is quickly load up this Mandelbrot Zoom so you can look at this while I pause quickly. Sorry about that, everyone. Trying to juggle several things here the past couple days. Dealing with some computer issues. Was that Mandelbrot Zoom not even on the screen? That's too bad. Or maybe it was. All right. Jeez, I got another spam call right away after that. All right, so moving on with the decode, everyone. Apologies once again. This pitcher's name, Andrew Michael Kittredge, his name equals 107. And this matches the birthday of Kelley Mack, who was born on the 10th of July, or 10/7. And with this game being against the Cincinnati Reds, I thought this must be connected to the death of Pete Rose, who was probably the most famous Cincinnati Red. And notice how this happened 10 months and 7 days after Rose's death. 17, a number we commonly see in stories of demise, kill, sacrifice, ritual human sacrifice, all with the 17 connection. So a couple more things to note before we move on to Sydney Sweeney. When Kelley Mack posted the video of her relearning to walk, that was 129 days before she was found dead. Again, this actress from The Walking Dead. Well, 129 is the primary birth numerology of Andrew Michael Kittredge, whose name also equals 1290. Kelley Mack died 1,029 days after her character was revived in The Walking Dead. But if you don't include the end date, this is also 1,028 days. And the 128 is Kelley's primary birth numerology. Kelley would have been 12,080 days old for Kittredge's Immaculate inning. Remember, she had the big connection to the number 35 and 326, which both equal 128. And what's an Immaculate inning? It's 9 pitches, 3 strikeouts, which does have Gematria of 128. A little arbitrary phrasing here, but looks significant nonetheless. One more note is that although Immaculate innings have been incredibly rare in the history of baseball, with the balance of power shifting towards pitching over the past couple decades, this has become far more common. And back in June of 22, there were actually 2 Immaculate innings thrown in the same game, and it happened against the same exact 3 hitters. Now, if you measure from this date to the date of Kittredge's Immaculate inning, it was exactly 164 weeks later. And 164 is the value of Andrew Kittredge in the simplest Gematria cipher. Also the name Mack, like Immaculate. 164. So shout out to my buddy Adam who's in the chat. He was actually at the Cubs game yesterday where this Immaculate inning was thrown. And I'll never be able to explain why he's a Cubs fan, but that's just how it is. And yeah, he told me about this Immaculate inning, and I quickly realized, oh, yep, it was against Cincinnati. I just did a video or a post on Kelley Mack, whose name equals Immaculate. It all came together very quickly. And this Sydney Sweeney connection with the film Immaculate really seems to drive this all home. So moving on from Andrew Kittredge and his 119th Immaculate inning, we move on to Sydney Sweeney and the numerical Nazi riddle that was her American Eagle commercial. And for those of you who are well-versed in this knowledge and have a solid understanding of the occultic themes and messages that are going on, I think it's very important to have a sense of humor when looking at this. Because yes, there is great evil in the world, and what's being done through the mainstream media is a terrible, awful thing. Lying to people, misdirecting, all that stuff. It's awful, but sometimes you just gotta laugh. And even though we're generations removed from the horrors of the 30s and 40s, World War II, and all the various ethnic cleansings that were happening, but you kind of have to appreciate the powerful numerology in this Sydney Sweeney ad. Now, of course, the big riddle here is that Sydney Sweeney, her initials are SS. The Nazi military organization that was responsible for carrying out the majority of the atrocities in the Holocaust were called the Schutzstaffel, which was abbreviated as SS, as they were commonly known. And herein lies the major connection that Sydney has. And again, if you somehow missed this news story, American Eagle ran an advertisement saying that Sydney Sweeney has great genes. And a lot of people took offense to this because I guess they don't have great genes. But this is just a reality of life. Life's not fair. For instance, I'm short. And that's something that people can make fun of you for, and there's no bullying involved. So you just kind of got to develop a thicker skin for it. So anyway, I want to point this out. Sydney Sweeney has great genes. The way this is phrased in the commercial, this phrase has gematria of 446, which is not too significant on its own, but when the commercial was uploaded to YouTube, back on July 23rd, this was 44 weeks and 6 days after Sydney Sweeney's birthday. And if you look at her date of birth back in the year 1997, it was 4,046 weeks after the official founding of the Nazi Party. Nazi, essentially short for National Socialist. And that's what this commercial is accused of being, nationalist. As if somehow she's promoting white supremacy through this denim advertisement. In reduction, her full name, Sydney Bernice Sweeney, equals 100. This commercial first aired 100 years after the founding of the Schutzstaffel, which she shares the SS initials with. The date of the ad was also 110 days after the Schutzstaffel's anniversary. Well, 110 is a very intriguing number as well, because Sydney was born on the date leaving 110 days on the calendar, while Adolf Hitler was born on the 110th day of the year. In fact, Hitler died a span of 11 days after his birthday, and his name, Adolf Hitler, equals 110 in the alphabetic order. Now, Hitler was 56 years old when he reportedly died, and 56 is the reduction value of Adolf Hitler. Well, if you measure from the birthdays of Adolf Hitler to Sydney Sweeney, we find they were born a span of exactly 5,656 weeks apart. But another important number here is the number 55. Notice how American Eagle and Holocaust both sum to the 55th prime number. This advertisement was uploaded to YouTube on a date with numerology of 55, 7 plus 23 plus 25. In reverse reduction, Sydney Sweeney equals 55. Blue jeans equals 55 in the same cipher. The word nationalism equals 55 in multiple ciphers. Nazi equals 550 in Latin. National Socialist German Workers' Party is 505 in reverse. And even Schutzstaffel equals 550 in primes. And check this out. One day before the advertisement was uploaded, the Nazi Party turned 5,500 weeks old. And what day of the year were the Nazis founded? That's right, the 55th day of the year. And this group was not very fond of Jewish people. Jewish people equals 55. Both Hitler and nationalism share a 555. Without the end date, 5,655 weeks between Hitler's and Sweeney's birthdays. So, a lot of people look at this and see the initials and think, hey, well, there's the connection, but it goes so much deeper. It's so much more than just the name Schutzstaffel. Now, the Schutzstaffel was born, or was founded, on the date leaving 271 days in the year. Sydney's ad came out 271 days before Hitler's birthday. That's the 58th prime number. Connecting to Nazi, American Eagle, and Pittsburgh, where the company is headquartered. There's also an interesting pie riddle here as well, because Nazi and Nazi Party share 50 Gematria with Circle. And this ad aired a span of 314 days after Sydney's birthday. Also, if you check out the blog post, which, as all of these are, is linked in the description below, you'll notice some significant numerical connections between Sydney Sweeney, the Nazis, American Eagle, the Schutzstaffel. It just goes on and on. So sometimes I do these number dumps at the end of the post, just to show all these connections that don't also have significant date alignments as well. So as much fun as I had decoding the Schutzstaffel throughout this part, I think it's finally time to move on to the next one. And in our next decode today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, professional wrestling. Because WWE's second biggest event of the year was held this past weekend at MetLife Stadium in New York City, or just outside of New York City, technically in New Jersey. And on night one of WrestleMania, Saturday night, we got treated, well, maybe treated is using that term a bit loosely, but we got to see country musician Jelly Roll in a professional wrestling match, which is kind of laughable, but a part of me at the same time says, you know what? Jelly Roll has cleaned his life up. He's lost like 250 some pounds or something, and he's getting in good enough shape to kind of do a wrestling match. So good for him. As a former backyard wrestler myself, if someone threw me the opportunity to wrestle at WrestleMania or something, I would absolutely take it. So you can't hate on a guy for jumping in the ring, no matter how outclassed they looked physically. And having seen the match myself, I've seen celebrities do worse in the ring. I'll say that much. But it wasn't just that Jelly Roll wanted to wrestle. That's not the only reason WWE let him in the door. WWE let this guy in the door to wrestle at their second biggest event as part of a larger numeric riddle that was connected to the passing of their 2 world championships at this event. And what I'm going to show you is how this all connects back to the number of the beast, 666. Jelly Roll's real name is Jason DeFord, which has Gematria of 666, which matches the city of New York. And again, this event was at MetLife Stadium, where all the New York football teams play. WWE founder Vince McMahon has a slew of connections to the number 666. But McMahon's not around anymore because in January of 2024, a huge sex trafficking scandal broke. the phrase sex trafficking equals 666. And the woman that he was accused of trafficking was named Janelle, which equals 666. Now, as part of that lawsuit, there was another unnamed wrestler in the report. However, it was very easy to determine who that wrestler was, and it was definitely Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar's nickname just so happens to be the Beast. The Beast is what he's commonly called. Beast incarnate is what the big screen shows when he enters. Now, this year's event was the 38th SummerSlam, and it concluded on the 3rd of August, which is written 3/8. In standard Gematria, the word beast equals 308. New York, New York, also 308 with capital letters. Jelly Roll's full name, Jason Bradley DeFord, also equals 308 in the reverse alphabetic order. On 3/8, the WWE Championship was recaptured by Cody Rhodes, whose full name sums to 308 in the alphabetic order. But this was the big surprise of the evening, was the return of the Beast. And check out the numerical connections between Brock Lesnar and Jelly Roll. Brock Lesnar was 88 months or 2,703 days old when Jelly Roll was born. In reverse Gematria, Beast equals 88, while 666 equals 273. 666 is the number of the Beast, which equals 258. And just hours after the show ended, Brock Lesnar turned 2,508 weeks of age, exactly. No, Brock Lesnar was born under the astrological sign of Cancer, whose astrological symbol represents the number 69. In the alphabetic order, the name Lesnar equals 69. And 69 is also a huge eclipse number, because eclipse equals 69, so does eclipse the sun and eclipse of the sun. This event at MetLife Stadium, which has the 69. Well, Lesnar's return at SummerSlam was a span of exactly 69 weeks after the Great American Eclipse of 2024. And this is what WWE likes to do. They take wrestlers out of action for months, sometimes a year, and then bring them back as part of a numerical riddle, with no intent of that wrestler ever departing permanently to begin with. Back in 2022, wrestler Bray Wyatt, who later passed away the following year, was cut in 2021, and it was like the biggest confusing thing. This was one of their biggest stars, and WWE just let him go. But then they brought him back the following year, and they did it at the end of a pay-per-view. And it was all by the numbers, all connected to the death of his former tag team partner and his own future death. So here we see again another massive return at the end of a big pay-per-view, and it's all by the numbers. Now, the number of the beast is thought to be satanic. The word satanic equals 244, which is interesting, because this satanic number 666 first appears at the 2440th digit of pi. Jelly Roll was born exactly 244 weeks after his tag team partner, Randy Orton, when that sex trafficking story broke last year, Cena also had the 2440 in his age. John Cena, of course, lost the WWE Championship to Cody Rhodes. And it was John Cena who was attacked by Brock Lesnar. Now, Lesnar and Cena have been rivaling in WWE for damn near 25 years. And it's probable that Lesnar's return will be John Cena's final rivalry as he wraps up his career. And it's no wonder these two guys are so connected in WWE, because they were born 80 days apart. The Beast equals 80 in multiple ciphers. Also 311 in Latin. And John Cena was attacked by the Beast 3 months and 11 days after his birthday. The guy he lost the belt to was born 311 days after Vince McMahon's birthday. This event held at MetLife Stadium, which has the 311. 666, 666s, both 311 with capital letters. All circling back to the Beast. But what's important to understand is that there's also a huge 9/11 riddle. And I mean, what event in New York City is complete without a good little 9/11 coding? Now, check out Jelly Roll's full name once again, Jason Bradley DeFord. In the Latin method, which I think is the most important, his name equals 1442. And don't underestimate how important this number is, because Revelation 9:11 in the King James Bible has an ordinal value of 1442. And Jelly Roll was born on a date with primary numerology of 119. He was even born in the city of Antioch, Tennessee, and Antioch equals 119. He was born 91 months, 11 days after John Cena. But you may recall that earlier this year, I think I did a video on this on Rumble because I can't talk about this topic on YouTube. There was a school shooting in Antioch, Tennessee, where Jelly Roll was born. And that shooting began at 11:09 a.m. And it was 1 year, 119 days after the mayor took office, and the mayor of Antioch, his name equals 119. Well, that shooting was 1 month and 19 days after Jelly Roll's birthday in his hometown. Jelly Roll's tag team partner, Randy Orton, was exactly 1,119 weeks old on the date of the 9/11 attacks in 2001. In fact, Randy Orton was born 119 days before Jelly Roll's birthday, or after his birthday. And isn't it interesting that Randy Orton shares the same April 1st birthday with Logan Paul, who was Jelly Roll's rival in this match? There's Logan Paul taking a fist right there. Well, Logan Paul was also born on a date with 119 numerology, meaning his birthday was also 119 days after Jelly Roll's. Logan's partner in this match was Scotsman Drew McIntyre. And Drew McIntyre was born on a date with an upside-down 9/11 for the numerology. In fact, Jelly Roll was 185 days old when Drew was born. 185 connects to World Trade Center. 846, the time the first plane struck. Solomon's Temple, Secret Society, and of course, this event, WWE SummerSlam. Now, this event was also 1 year, 190 days after Brock Lesnar was banished from the WWE after the sex trafficking scandal. Vince McMahon had a 9/11 in his age as well. The show was 11 months and 9 days before Brock's birthday, and it was in MetLife Stadium, which equals 119. The birthdays of McMahon and Lesnar, whose names each equal 119, are 10 months and 19 days apart. Brock Lesnar attacked John Cena, who was born 9 months and 11 days after Brock's birthday. And Cena lost the title to Cody Rhodes, who was born 2,911 days after Lesnar. And Cody's full name equals 119. I mean, what the hell is this? Who's running this script? Give them a gold star. Give them a pat on the back. Trace their height on the nearest doorway because they are making great progress. So there's a couple more notes on that, but we do have one more news story I want to touch on before we call it a day. I might riff a little bit after this one, but next up I want to talk about this rather bizarre double murder that occurred at Devil's Den State Park in Arkansas. You may have heard of this story. An absolutely psychotic-looking man was arrested. The kind of guy that you look at and you think like, well, that's a serial killer. That's what we got here. Andrew McGann is the man arrested for this horrific double stabbing at Devil's Den State Park, which was not only horrific for the act itself, but also for the fact that it was witnessed by the two young daughters of the victims. What a terrible news story. So we're going to talk about how this was all synced up by the numbers with the only president to come from Arkansas, I do believe, Bill Clinton. Because one of the victims in this double stabbing was named Clinton Brink. And I just thought this was so fascinating with the fact that Bill Clinton is on the brink of political extinction in light of all of the Epstein file controversies that Clinton is doubtlessly involved in. I mean, of all the big name politicians who may be connected to bad things going on at Epstein Island, it seems the most obvious for Bill Clinton to be involved, doesn't it? Based on the pictures, based on all the involvement. I mean, Trump is obviously connected to it, but there's something about Clinton that makes him seem a little bit more darker than the others. Now, another thing I want to talk about with this story is that the man arrested was named Andrew McGann, and in American politics, Andrew McGann was the name of a former Illinois House of Representatives member. Andrew McGann ran a funeral home along with his son, who was also named Andrew McGann. And this Andrew McGann actually preceded his father in death. With this incident occurring at a place called Devil's Den State Park, we're also going to look at how this connects to the Church of Satan, which has been a big theme lately. I haven't talked a lot about it, but we will see that it's definitely true. Now, he kills a guy named Clinton in the state of Arkansas. This Clinton's last name, Brink, equals 54, which matches the state of Arkansas, 504. The perpetrator was born 50 years and 4 days after Bill Clinton. And his name is Andrew McGann, which equals 54 in reduction, okay? Now, in the alphabetic order, Andrew McGann equals 117. His murders occurred 11 months and 7 days after Clinton's birthday. And the nearest city to Devil's Den State Park is West Fork, which also equals 117. Now, these two Andrew McGanns from Illinois, the funeral home directors, which is appropriate for a story involving so much brutal death. These guys died 22 months and 4 days apart, which matches Andrew McGann, or Andrew J. McGann. both sharing that name. But notice how this Illinois politician, with the same name as the man arrested, he was born in the year 25 and then died on the date 2/5. His son's name, Andrew J. McGann Jr., is 250. But consider how Arkansas is the 25th state admitted to the Union, the halfway point of the United States. These double murders occurred in the year 25. And it happened at Devil's Den State Park, which equals 205. In reduction, Devil equals 25. So does the killer's name, McGann, 25. In fact, McGann and Devil are a super match in Gematria. The double murderer was born on the 23rd of August, Kobe Bryant's birthday. And remember how Kobe Bryant was the ultimate 666 athlete. One of the largest posts you'll find on my blog is about how Kobe Bryant is the ultimate 666 athlete. It's undeniable. It's indisputable. It's really one of the greatest facts in all of numerical history. Search my blog for that if you want. So this guy, Andrew McGann, shares a birthday with Kobe Bryant. And that date of birth matches the Gematria of 666, 238. In the alphabetic order, 603 score and 6 sums to 313. Andrew McGann was born exactly 31 lunar years and 3 months after the founding of the Church of Satan. A lunar year, for the record, is simply 12 lunar phases, which again equates to a synodic month. 313 is the number that Bill Clinton shares with Arkansas in Latin. And look at this. 313 is the 65th prime number. Bill Clinton was 600 months 5 days old when Andrew McGann was born. This is also 50 years and 5 days. Well, 55 is the Gematria of Satan. Andrew J. McGann, his name, or McGann. And these other Andrew McGanns, they were funeral home directors, right? Funeral home 55. The name Clinton has matching 33 Gematria with Satan. Andrew McGann was born 30 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days after the founding of the Church of Satan. The murders were also 3 months and 3 days before October 29th, which is the date that Church of Satan founder Anton LaVey died, or morphed into a hideous demon, I suppose. And this guy, this killer, was actually a teacher. The word teacher equals 33. Teacher, McGann, Devil, all with 312 Gematria, like Washington County, Arkansas, where this occurred. This was 27 years, 270 days after the death of Anton LaVey. The killings were on the 207th day of the year. This syncs up with the name Andrew McGann, 207, and the name of his victims, Brink, 27. Brink also matches Satan in multiple methods, but think about this, right? We had murders at a place called Devil's Den State Park. Now, for those of you a little more well-versed in Gematria, What cipher would you say is most closely associated with the devil? Well, it's on the screen, so it's obvious, but that would be satanic gematria. This sounds like an evil cipher to run numbers in, like, oh no, if you look at satanic gematria, you're going to go to hell. Oh no, you're going to burn eternally. Don't play with those numbers. That's what the ignorant, base-level religious people would say. Hopefully, those of us who are a little more enlightened understand that the nature of reality is duality, and these forces are going to exist no matter what we do. The point I'm making is that this cipher is brilliantly constructed, and it's all centered around the number 666, which is the value of satanic gematria in this cipher. It's too perfect. The phrase ritual human sacrifice equals 9/11 in this method. And so does Devil's Den State Park in reverse satanic. 911. Well, if you look at the birthday of the man arrested, Andrew McGann. Now, they may have removed... Oh, here it is. If you run his birthday, August 23rd of 1996, we find that he was born during Brown lunation number 911. These murders were 911 weeks after the death of the politician with the same name as the perpetrator. It was also 19 years, 116 days after the death of that politician's son who shares the same name. In fact, that son's name, Andrew J. McGann Jr., equals 911. The name of his victims, Clinton and Kristen Brink, 1116, which is the 9/11 upside down. The president from Arkansas, William Jefferson Blythe. What a weird last name. It's a good thing he changed his last name to Clinton. And, of course, I'm sure there's probably 3 or 4 Blythes listening to this video now, so my deepest apologies. But hey, my last name rhymes with a nursery rhyme. Hickory Tickory Dock. Heard it my whole life, so live with it. Anyway. So Clinton's full name with the 1019. And of course, he was a third. And the letter I is the 9th letter, which means, you know, he's got the upside down 666 at the end of his name. His full name matches Andrew McGann, 1151, in that satanic method. McGann is 262 in satanic, which matches Clinton, a number synced up with the Church of Satan. But the satanic gematria ciphers are huge here. 2 months, 27 days after the Church of Satan founding date, like devil, like Bill Clinton. West Fork equals the 78th prime number in satanic. The murders were on a 78 date, which matches devil. Bill Clinton was 78 years old. And 342 days after his birthday to match his own name. In reverse satanic, West Fork equals the 75th prime number, which is a number found in the perpetrator, the victim, and the name devil. And of course, there's more, all in satanic gematria. Once again, all of these posts, as always, are linked down below in the description. And I even thought it was worth mentioning that Hillary Clinton, on the date of these killings, check out how old she was. Her age ended in 399. 399 is the Latin value of both double homicide and Murder, $3.99. All right, so we're just over the 1 hour mark for this super stream. I typically go a little bit longer than an hour here on this on super streams. I'd like to point out that I've been blogging a little bit more about baseball lately. And if you think that has anything to do with the fact that my hometown Milwaukee Brewers are currently the best team in baseball, well, you might be right. And a couple of my posts have been about the Brewers. There's been a lot of intriguing riddles with Milwaukee this year. For one, they just traded for a backup catcher named Dan Jansen. And last year, I did a post on this same player, Dan Jansen, talking about how he was connected to Wisconsin athlete Dan Jansen, who won gold at the 1994 Winter Olympics. And a year later, this guy gets traded to Wisconsin, right? So this was all by the numbers. Very, very much so. In fact, when the Brewers picked up Danny Jansen, he was 30 years, 104 days old. The digits of pi. Well, I just recently did a video on pi and Cubs star Ryne Sandberg. Now, in this video, I point out that the Cubs were playing against the Brewers that day. And when the Brewers picked up Danny Jansen, it was the same day that Ryne Sandberg died. And Sandberg died 314 days after his birthday. Well, then a couple days later, the Brewers picked up another trade piece, Brandon Lockridge, who was born on Pi Day of the year 97, which connects to pi through prime numbers. And his name, Brandon Marcus Lockridge, equals 227, which is, of course, a number heavily connected to pi. And yes, Chad, I notice everything. No, I kid, but the Brewers also got a player named Andrew Vaughn this year, and for several seasons, Andrew Vaughn was more or less a lackluster hitter on the White Sox. He was pretty decent, but nothing too great. However, now that he's been traded to the Brewers, he's been scorched earth. He's literally like the best hitter in baseball since the trade. And his first game was with Milwaukee was immediately after the Texas floods. Texas Flood was the name of the first studio album by musician Stevie Ray Vaughan, who died in the state of Wisconsin. So right after I do that video on the Texas floods, the Brewers from Wisconsin get a guy named Vaughn, who is now their best hitter. And remember, when Stevie Ray Vaughan died, the Brewers had another player named Greg Vaughn. So all I'm saying is that there's a lot of crazy things lining up for the Brewers this year. And I'm a Brewer fan, so of course I'm going to decode, their best season ever. But it kind of feels like a trap, right? Because, Bob Uecker passes away, Mr. Baseball, the team's announcer for 54 years. In what, now the Brewers are immediately going to win a World Series? I don't know if it's that simple, guys. But there's definitely some mystical swirls spinning around the Milwaukee Brewers clubhouse this year, I think. There was also another baseball game where 33 runs were scored. And this happened in the 303 area code. Denver and Colorado, both summing to 33 in reduction. It was the Colorado Rockies who won this game. The final score was 16-17. And if you look closely at the number 16-17, that's the 33rd pentagonal number. And 16 plus 17 is 33. Well, this just so happens to be the 33rd season in the history of Colorado Rockies baseball. This game was played 30 weeks and 3 days into the new year. And this game featured a walk-off home run that was hit by Brenton Doyle. Doyle was born exactly 33 weeks before the end of the year. And his birthday is 33 days after the pitcher who he hit the home run off of, Dennis Santana. Santana was exactly 3 months and 3 weeks after his birthday for this game. The winning pitcher for the Rockies was Dugan Darnell, who was 330 days before his next birthday. Brenton Doyle, the man who hit the walk-off home run in the bottom of the ninth, and of course, he wears number 9, which is 3 times 3. The Rockies even came back from a 9-0 deficit to win this game. But look how old Brenton Doyle was for this walk-off home run. He was 27 years, 79 days old. Well, his home run ensured that the Rockies stayed on 2,779 losses all time. 2,779, the same 4 digits in this guy's age. All right, everybody. I'm going to start to wind things down here today. Hope you enjoyed today's video. It was nice to bring back the Super Stream after all this time. Again, it's been about 7 months. And ironically enough, 69 videos from the 95th to the 96th Super Stream. But I always knew I would bring it back. A big reason I don't do Super Streams as frequently anymore is because my individual decodes have consistently gotten longer and longer for the most part. And for me to do a Super Stream is really just me decoding like 2 to 3 stories, which doesn't really feel worth it. Today worked out because these decodes were all pretty short, a little more focused, a little more to the point. But, you know, we'll be doing more of them in the future, I'm sure. Thanks to everybody who made it to the live chat. I'm sorry that I'm a terrible YouTuber and I don't really interact that much. I just kind of like to get through the information I have and help prove to people that Gematria is truly the most amazing, sensational thing in this realm that we inhabit, the realm we've inherited. It's a pretty magical thing. So thanks to everybody for checking out. If you made it all the way to the end, do feel free to like, share, subscribe. It does me favors. Also, if you want to jump on the website and become a member to help support the site. Of course, everything on there is free to use, but there's additional features, additional powers for your decoding prowess. I'm really looking forward to making an announcement regarding the website very soon, probably this month, regarding a new special tool that will be unveiled that will help launch us into the future. A new decoding tool that is far more powerful than anything you've yet imagined. That I think will absolutely take us into the next decade and beyond. So with that, we're done. Thanks to everybody, to those of you seeking truth. Peace, love, God bless. We'll talk to y'all next time. See ya.